guys, it's Miss Garner. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying a beautiful day. I just wanted to pop in with you today just to give you a little bit of an introduction to fractions. This week we're going to be starting in our math workbooks, and tomorrow is one of our math days. And it occurred to me that when we left school we had not really covered a whole lot of fractions. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you a little more information and a few more details that you could apply to your lesson when you do it on your own tomorrow. So the first thing I want to do is explain to you guys a little bit about what a fraction actually is. So I wanted to show you on my board, I have written an example of a fraction. This fraction is a half, and this is how it is written. A fraction is a top number, a bottom number, and then there's a fraction bar that separates the two. So let's talk about what the top number is. The top number is the number that indicates a particular part of something. It could be the part that's shaded, or the part that you're going to eat, or the part that's red, or whatever particular part you are talking about. And that is what we call the numerator. The bottom part, which is below the fraction bar, is the number that indicates how many pieces there are that the whole thing is divided into. And we call that the denominator. So now that you know what a fraction looks like when you write it and what each part of it means, we're going to look at some circles and some rectangles, which is what you will see on your page that you'll be doing tomorrow. And we'll talk about how they look when they are divided into equal pieces. So what I've done was I've cut out some paper shapes that will show you sort of how these look when you divide them. What I have right here is a whole circle. That means this circle is one whole piece. Now, when you take a whole thing, like a circle, a paper circle, you can divide it by folding it. And when you do that and you fold it into equal parts, you now have fractional pieces. So what I have on this side is half of this circle, and what I have on this side is another half of the circle. And both of these pieces are equal sizes, so we can call them fractional parts. Now, what I've done on this side, so you can see how they're written, is I've shown that this side is labeled half, and this side is labeled another half. And that shows that each piece is half of the circle as a whole. You can also do that with thirds. So what I did with this one was I divided it, it's a little tricky to do, but I divided it into 3 different parts, and they're approximately the same size each, and I labeled these as thirds. And since there are 3 parts that this circle is divided into, that 3 goes on the bottom. And each piece is labeled as 1/3 because each part is one of the 3. You can do the same thing with a circle and divide it into fourths. So I took this one and I folded it in half, and then I took it and divided it into half again. And when you unfold it, you have 4 equal sections. And I've labeled these as fourths, showing that the 4 is on the bottom. The denominator means that there are 4 parts in all, and each piece is 1 out of the 4. Another thing that we call these are quarters. I know we've talked about this a little bit earlier in the year when we talked about money, because how many quarters are in a whole dollar? That would be 4, right? And also when we talked about time and we took a clock and we divided it into 4 different parts, we had 15-minute parts that were quarters of an hour, because 4 of them equal a whole hour. So quarters, guys, means the same thing as fourths, and we've actually talked about that already. So each piece can also be called 1/4. Now, I also have some rectangles that I've divided into equal parts. And there are a couple different ways you can do rectangles, and you'll see that on your page tomorrow. This is a whole rectangle, and if you split it in half and fold it that way, then you have 2 equal parts that are that shape and that size, and they're the same size, and each of those are a half. That's a half, that's a half. They're both the same. You can also do it like this lengthwise, and you end up with, sorry, each side is a half, and they're the same size going lengthwise. Same thing. Another way you can divide a rectangle is into thirds, just like the circle. And if you fold it this way, you end up with parts that look like that. And each of those pieces is a third. And you can also do it lengthwise, going down that part that way on the paper. And each of those is a third because they're the same amount, same size. So that's a third, and that's a third. Rectangles are the same way with fourths. You can divide it in half and then half again, and that makes fourths. There's the 4 equal pieces there. Or you can do 4 equal pieces going down this direction on the paper, and each piece is worth 1/4 because there are 4 pieces in all. One thing I realized that I didn't show you while I was going over the different parts of the circle and the rectangle is how those words are written, how to spell them. So if you have something that's divided into a half, the way that word looks when it's written is half, H-A-L-F, half. When you're talking about thirds, just like you're going into 3rd grade next year, it's going to look like this. That stands for third. Fourths and quarter. That is how those words look when they're written, and they mean the same thing as the fractional parts when we use numbers. Okay guys, I think that should be enough to get you started and going on your work page for tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed watching, and hope you didn't mind the sounds of my dog scratching and making noise in the background while you were trying to actually learn something. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and hanging with me, and if you need anything, as always, just don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. And I hope you're all having a great afternoon. I miss you guys, and I can't wait to see everybody again soon. Bye.